and good afternoon. Welcome to Trading Tech Talk. My name is Daniel Sinnig, and I will be your host tonight. And I am very excited for today's session because not only are we going to present our portfolio tester tool, but we also have a guest speaker again with us today. His name is Scott Welsh, and I will introduce him shortly. But before we get started, a bit of housekeeping. As you know, trading is risky and not suited for everyone. If you trade, only trade with risk capital. Should you lose risk capital, it will not affect your lifestyle or induce unnecessary stress. When it comes to backtesting and hypothetical performance, keep in mind that these are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Now, what is new this week with trading indicators? We have just released a new version of our Super Trend Bullseye indicator. In this new version, we have added 2 new features, and both features were features requested by you, our dear users. The first feature is that we have now a new optimization criteria built into Super Trend Bullseye, which will allow you to optimize for long-only trades or short-only trades. And how this works, I will show you in 1 second. We have also introduced a reverse on touch feature. So let me pull up my ModifWave platform and drag it over. Here we have applied the new version of Super Trend Bullseye. And let me start first with the reverse on touch feature. By default, this feature is not enabled. And we only reverse trade direction when the bar closes above the trailing stop. Now, this might be a good idea for some traders because you don't get stopped out too quickly and you give the trade another chance. If it only touches it, you stay in the trade, and only when you're really close above the trading stop, you get out of it. The downside is that you are not able to place a broker side stop loss using this technique because you never know where you're going to close and when this close will happen. This is why we have now also introduced a reverse on touch feature, which basically will reverse the position whenever the candle simply touches the trading stop. In order to activate this feature, simply go to the settings, and it works the same on NinjaTrader and TradingView. So go to the settings and select as reverse policy the on touch mode. And once selected, if I go back to my settings here, you will see that now we reverse position simply when we touch the trading stop. So we do not need to close above it. Touch is enough. The second feature is related to how the optimization is done. So for this, let me go back to the settings. And we now have a new setting called trading constraint. And this trading constraint setting will only affect the optimization. It will not affect the signals on the chart, but it will affect the optimization, how the optimization is done. By default, the optimizer uses or looks at both long and short trades and finds the best parameters to get the best performance for both long and short trades. But this may not be your trading style. You may have a trading style where you only trade long. And of course, in that case, you would like the optimizer to only consider long signals and optimize for these long signals. So we can now enable this mode by simply selecting long only here. And once done, the optimizer will recalculate the parameters optimized now for only long signals. You will still see both signals on the chart, but the parameters now have been chosen to give you the best long entries. And in case you're only interested in the short signals, you can also enable this by simply going back to the settings and under trading constraints, simply select short only. And once done, the optimizer will now give you the best results for the short signals only. Now, the main topic of today, however, will be on our portfolio tester. And this is a continuation of last week's topic, which was on optimizing your trading strategies. Today, we are going to talk about how to streamline your strategy testing. Imagine this. Let's say you are an automated trader and you want to find the best symbol and time frame to run your robots on. Well, this is probably a very tedious process and requires a lot of testing because, how do we know what time frame or symbol is the best one to choose? We have to test all the different combinations, which is quite tedious. Or you are a manual trader and you are interested in finding the best use of an indicator for your trading approach. Well, again, what you can do is to code your indicator as a robot, let the robot take trades, and then try to find the best symbol, configuration, or time frame for that robot where it works best. But again, this requires extensive testing. And, the problem with extensive testing is that it is very, very tedious and time consuming. And this is why most traders dread testing. Just imagine you want to test on 19 different symbols, let's say, on 3 time frames and 6 different settings. Well, how many test cases are these? Well, if you add them all up or multiply them all together, you arrive at 342 test cases. Now imagine running all these manually. For sure, you will not do it. It just takes too long. Well, we now have a solution for this. Why not automate all these test cases? And this is exactly what we had in mind for the Portfolio Tester. And just a quick side story, Portfolio Tester was actually a tool which I had written for my own use many years ago. It was back in the day when I was doing conferences for Rob Booker, and Rob had asked me to backtest his Finch robot. And I very quickly arrived at the point that, wow, I will not do this manually. This is way too tedious and time consuming. So I've written a first version of Portfolio Tester, which was a console application. Basically, I had no user interface. And this was really the first use case of the Portfolio Tester. It was completely at that point for my own use. But then I thought, well, if I liked it back then, maybe I can make it a bit more user-friendly, no more console user interface, and perhaps other traders find also utility in this tool. Now, what this tool allows you to do is to automate your test cases across multiple strategies, symbols, and timeframes. You can simply click together your test cases, then you simply click run, and it will run all these different test cases in the background. No need for you to stay in front of the monitor. Some of the more advanced features of the Portfolio Tester is, for example, the seamless integration with Portfolio Architect. And how this works, I will show you in 1 second. You can export your test results to CSV. You can customize your symbols. You can add new symbols to the tool, and you can customize the spreads being used for it. If you work with Tick Data Suite, which is an add-on for MetaTrader 4, you can also use this Tick Data Suite with Portfolio Tester. And if you use MT4, MT5 in portable mode, also these 2 modes are supported by Portfolio Tester. Enough theory, let's switch over to the tool so I can give you a quick demo of how it works. When you first start up Portfolio Tester, it looks like this. And the user interface is quite intuitive. It is done in steps. So the first step is you select the MetaTrader 4 root folder. Just as a side note, I'm demoing this tool for MetaTrader 4, but the MetaTrader 5 version looks identically to this and works identically. So for MetaTrader 4, you first choose the MT4 root folder. Simply click on Browse and pick the installation folder of MT4. So, and if you have multiple installations of MT4, like in my case, you pick the one that you want to use to run these tests on. So I'll pick it, I click OK. As soon as I do this, the lower half of the Portfolio Tester populates. So I've selected my MT4 instance, and now I can select for which trading strategy I would like to run this backtest on. I'm going to pick one of the built-in trading strategies in MT4, which everyone has access to. So MACD sample, for example. I can also choose the parameterization to be chosen for the strategy. In this case, I will use the default parameters. However, if you do not want to do this, you could pick one of these saved parameterizations of your MT4. I can then go on and select what is the start date and the end date of my test case. So in this case, let's start from perhaps the beginning of the year, January 2022, until today. I can select the test mode. If you use MT4, you know what that is. We have 3 different test modes. We have on tick, which basically is the most detailed backtest mode, but it also takes the longest. We have control points, which is a compromise between very detailed and not detailed at all. And we have open price only. So I'm going to choose control points just to make this demonstration a bit faster. I can also select where do I want to save my output files to. So I can select my output folder. I can select what is the name of my CSV file to which the results should be saved. I also have the option to copy over the individual HTML reports that MT4 generates after each test run to this output folder. This is useful if you want to have a look at them after the test is completed, perhaps for some further analysis. Next, what I can do is to select the symbols on which I would like to run the backtest. I have all these main symbols pre-installed. If a symbol is missing and you'd like to test on an additional symbol, all you need to do is to go up here to settings, you go to manage symbols, and here you can add additional symbols to portfolio tester along with the spread that should be used for that symbol. And let me just pick a couple of symbols. So I could have also selected all the symbols. This is usually something I think I do when I run the portfolio tester overnight. And the last thing I will choose are the timeframes on which I would like to test or run this test on. So for example, on the M15, M30, or H1 timeframe. But again, I could have chosen all the timeframes if I wanted to. If you are running this overnight and you want to test as many things as possible, you could also add another test case to portfolio tester, which can be done through these add and remove buttons. So in here, you could have chosen just another strategy, or perhaps the same strategy with a different configuration. So back to my original strategy, the MACD sample. And all I need to do now is to simply click on run. Once I click run test, the strategy tester will run all these test cases for me. In this case, these are only 12 test cases because you only selected, I believe, 4 symbols in 3 different timeframes. Now, depending on your starting date and end date, these test cases will take anything between a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to complete. So for example, this first one here took 42 seconds, which is not too bad. And now the portfolio tester will go on to the next symbol. So the first one was for AUD CAD on the M15 timeframe, which completed in 42 seconds. It had a loss of $522. You can see the profit factor here, the drawdown, and how many trades were taken. We're not going to wait now until all these 12 test cases are completed. Instead, let me switch over to a test which I had run earlier on today. It was performed on one of my EAs, which is called the Volatility Crusher EA version 2 in its default settings. And I tested it on all these different symbols and on 3 different timeframes, on the M15, on the M30, and on the H1 timeframe. And this test case, or this portfolio test, completed after 23 minutes and 6 seconds. Again, all of this was run completely automatically. And you see a little summary here of the test result. And the results have also been written to this CSV file. Now, there's one really cool thing for the portfolio tester. It integrates seamlessly with the portfolio architect. If you remember, Portfolio Architect was a tool, or is a tool, which allows you to analyze and optimize your trading portfolio. In order to export all these test runs into Portfolio Architect, all you need to do is to click on this item here, Export to Portfolio Architect, of course, provided you have installed this tool. Once it's opened up, you see that all these different test runs are now imported into Portfolio Architect, and you can now do your analysis. So for example, I could look at my equity evolution, my drawdown, my yearly returns. Of course, in this case, it was only 1 year, my monthly returns, and so forth. I can also look at seasonality patterns, which months throughout the year work the best, which weekday, for example, work the best. You can see Wednesdays, for example, work by far the worst. How did my strategy perform throughout the day? This is a day trading strategy, which I used. And we can see here, for example, that, well, it seemed to work quite nicely during regular trading hours, or at least between 8 and 7 p.m., but not so much overnight. And for you as a trader, this gives you invaluable insights because now you can optimize. You can, for example, simulate, well, what would happen if I only run this strategy between, let's say, 8 a.m. and 18 o'clock? All you need to do is to go to properties up here. You go to filters and you say, okay, I want to trade the strategy only between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Done. I click OK, and it will simulate the effect now of running the strategies only during these trading hours. We can see that our equity evolution is much, much better because we've now optimized the strategy and focused only on the trading hours, which were the most profitable ones. I would like to give the word now to Scott. So Scott not only is a master robot trader, he is also a power user of the MT4 portfolio tester and portfolio architect. So Scott, do you mind perhaps sharing your experience with these tools?
Sure. My background, I got into robot trading, automated trading in 2012, but I was on TradeStation at that time. And Daniel knows this story well. And I was doing, I spent literally 2,500 hours 5 to 6 hours a day for a year and a half. You can do the math. So I did 2,500 hours trying to find an automated strategy. And I finally picked one. I traded it on TradeStation back when they traded Forex, and things were going great. I was making money. I made 100% in a year trading just an automated strategy. And life was wonderful. And I think I had been doing that even when Daniel and I first met. And then, of course, my world practically ended for all intents and purposes. TradeStation stopped trading Forex. And I knew a little bit of coding in TradeStation. I knew a little bit of easy language, but not enough, not for the strategies that I had built. And so what am I going to do? It's like my trading career ended. Am I going to go back to stocks? And so the first thing I want to say is I found Daniel just by accident when I was speaking at this conference along with Daniel. And Daniel, you've saved my life. I don't know where I'd be without Daniel, everyone. So he's an absolutely fantastic coder, besides being a great person. And I don't know. He transferred all of my strategies into MT4. He allowed my life to continue. So long way of saying thank you, Daniel, for everything that you do. I'm very, very thankful for you. Now, going back to my first strategy, which was called the Hornet, which Daniel has helped bring in also. I spent, well, more than that now, almost 3,000 hours afterwards. If I had Portfolio Tester and Portfolio Architect, but specifically Tester, I could have divide that by 10, maybe 200. It would have saved me so much time because Daniel's exactly right. Okay, I've got a strategy. I want to create something. Well, is it going to be daily? Okay, so let's run a test on daily. Well, I don't like that. Well, I'm going to try a different year. I'm going to try multiple years, blah, blah, blah. And I've spent now a week's gone by and I'm on the daily. Well, what about 4 hour? Same thing. Well, what about 15-minute? Oh, well, I moved to 15-minute. Well, is there a time of day it works better? Well, how do you figure out which time of day your strategy trades if you don't have Daniel's tools? You do what I did and you look through so many Excel spreadsheets. I think 8 a.m. looks good. No, wait, 12 p.m. looks good. It almost makes me cry thinking back about how hard it was and how much work you had to put in. And furthermore, there's one thing that Daniel didn't even mention, which his tool is so helpful for. If you have to spend all this time doing it manually, right? First of all, you can't run a test overnight, but it's so important to be able to keep your mindset. When you go into testing, I always have an idea. Okay, I have a theme and I've planned this out, either written it down or planned it out. Okay, I'm going to test this particular aspect. Well, if you're running it manually, it's so easy to get sidetracked. Oh, and then you have to go to the store, or you have to run an errand, or you have an appointment, and you come back to your testing. And it's like, what was I testing? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Whereas because Architect and because Tester goes so fast, I can run multiple timeframes, multiple instruments, all in the theme that I was thinking of. And it's done in an hour if you're doing a big test, or less if you're doing small tests. And then guess what? Then you can take your ideas. Okay, I was looking for this profit factor or drawdown. I come back. Oh, now I run another test. So you can do a 2-hour testing session and get from beginning to end through a whole theme of what you were thinking of. Whereas before, maybe you lose it. Maybe you never come back to it. Maybe you get confused. It's a nightmare, right? It's not easy for an individual person, a regular person, to be able to go out there and make their own automated strategies. And when Daniel introduced me to all of his tools, it's just like a roller coaster ride. It's so much fun for me to test. I feel like I'm a professional tester, and this has made it not only obviously more useful and more helpful to make money, but it's made it 100 times more fun. Now, I told Daniel this last time we met. I literally use this every day. Like, I don't, it's hard to find a day where I don't have Architect or Tester on, either one or both. I use them both today, as a matter of fact. So to be able to take ideas and to be able to test them, it's just been fantastic.
Scott, when you won these championships or became a second in this Forex trading championship, was this done through fully automated trading throughout, or were some manual trades involved there too?
Well, it's 100%. It was 100% robot, and it was something that you and I have worked on together. So it was that. Now, I didn't really do anything manual, except at the end of 2020. Did anything happen in 2020? Was the world? I don't know what was going on in 2020, but at the end in December, I was almost in first place, and then I fell back into second, but I was pretty clear at second place. And so about December 15th, I stopped. And I don't know if that, as it turns out, it wasn't a mistake. I felt like a chicken. I felt like that wasn't the smart thing to do. So that in itself was a manual human decision that I did not trade the last 2 weeks of December. But up until that point, yes, it's a fully automated strategy. And of course, the human can choose to turn it off. But no, I just let it run. That was important to me that I did that contest without doing discretionary.
Yeah, it's amazing. And guys, if you're wondering how Scott does all this, he has a whole army of robots developed. They're all available on his page, scottwelchstrategies.com. And Scott posts the results, the real-time results of these robots regularly on his homepage. So here's just a selection of what I had found today on his page for the performance of 2022. And Scott, which robot were you running when you won this second place? Was it a combination of many of those?
Well, first of all, it's real time, but it's real testing time. They aren't real results. I'm not trading all of these because, as I've told Daniel, I might have 30 different versions of these robots thanks to his tools. So I do run the testing with the 99% data. So it's pretty accurate testing. But just to be clear, I'm not trading all of these live. But the ones that I used in the contest was the Dragonfly. It was a different version than the one you see on the screen. It had a little bigger stop loss and it had a little bit higher profits. But it was a version of the Dragonfly. Yes, I traded the Euro Yen and the Pound Yen in the contest, and that was it, just two. And now I've cut it down even less, and now I only trade the Pound Yen.
Oh, that's interesting. So are you in a contest right now as well?
Yeah, I decided to do it again in 2022. I was in the top 5 a month ago, and then I've fallen just outside the top 5. But if I catch some trends, who knows?
And Scott, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, you do have a homepage, which is scottwelchstrategies.com. And I believe you'd be happy to hear from anyone who's interested in your robots and how you approach trading.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Welsh Strategies, you go to the home. That's the contact page. I do write a free newsletter that I encourage. That's a great way. I give away free strategies on that I had developed with Daniel software. Just basic trend following stuff. I'm a big believer in trend following and long-term strategies. So get on the free newsletter list. It doesn't obviously cost you anything. And that contact page, just say, put me on the newsletter list and I'll put you on. And it might even, it's supposed to go right to my MailChimp anyway. But yeah, go to the contact page, send me a note, or look around, whatever you'd like to do. I've recently moved into futures trading, and guess what? Your architect, I do all my futures portfolio testing on Portfolio Architect too. So not only is it good for Forex, I'm using it for stocks and for futures also.
And for futures, which platform do you use? Do you use TradeStation for that?
Yep, TradeStation. Then I just save and like you did, I drag and drop, and I just drop it over into Architect, and it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So if you remember, guys, Portfolio Architect is compatible with a variety of different platforms. TradeStation, MT4, MT5, Ninja Trader, which I demoed last week, Thinkorswim, manual import of CSV, and so forth. So thank you so much, Scott. So I encourage you to check out scottwelchstrategies.com. His homepage has all the information you need. He lists all his products, his performance, and make sure you sign up for his newsletter. If you are interested in our portfolio tester tool for either MetaTrader 4 or MetaTrader 5, simply go to tradingindicators.com. If you're interested in the MT4 version, go to MT4 tester. Otherwise, go to MT5 tester. Both products are offered with a 7-day money-back guarantee. So check it out on tradingindicators.com. So moving on to our second topic of this week.
So welcome, traders. We had, again, a very interesting week. Last Friday, after we had the session, the market went down again. And currently, right now, it's primarily all the political implications that have a huge impact. Russia was cutting off the natural gas supply to France. That sent the markets down. And also, we had the highest mortgage rate hike of the last 28 years. And that also was not really helpful. Then on Monday the markets were closed. on 10th day, and Tuesday started with another big political thing, Kaliningrad route, that is the area at the Baltic Sea that belongs to Russia, and there is no landline towards Russia, and it goes through NATO country, and that line was cut off because of the sanctions, and of course that caused big hiccups. And the housing data came out in the evening or during the day, and that also sent the stocks. Europe showed a slowing growth, and today actually was one of the positive days because the VIX was first time again below 30. I told you before, the fear factor, the VIX dipped below 30. And 30 is really, really like the danger zone. Normally you say everything above 20 is elevated. And then when it's going above 30, that's really very dangerous. That means whenever you buy any kind of calls and puts that's very expensive, it's normally the time to sell them. But on the other hand, you see the size of the candles, they're huge, and that can also cause a big problem. You see in March 20, we had a huge spike, but then it came down again, was pretty normal here, and now we're back up here, but it's coming down a little bit. A lot of people saying, oh, right now it looks like the market could have reached the bottom, and things could become better. We'll see. As we said last week, we need to have the big guys moving in and buying. Then that's really a sign that the bottom is reached. The interesting stock news were pretty much that Twitter, the board decided to or backed the offer from Elon Musk, and Kellogg's decided to split up into 3 companies. All right, let's go to the next one. We're staying in cash. Right now, there is no reason with the situation right now, the way it is, to really risk anything. We need to wait, and I'll move in here. We go and show the SPX. You can see I have the SPX here on a daily. You see where we were last week on the 16th. And now we're back here. So we really didn't move anything. We went down. That was the Friday. And then we came up again. Today was, like I said, a positive day, but we have to see how it really turns out. We're still in a sort of limbo zones. We have to really wait. That's why today I decided to do something quite different, because I get a lot of questions where they say, well, how do I find stocks that I really can use? There are some simple tools you can use, and one of the ones I like personally very, very much is this one here. I listed here. This is the sector spider. You know, the S&P 500. There are different sectors, 11 of them, and all the stocks are divided in those different sectors. I show you them in a second. Go to that tool that looks like this way here. The page here, you see all these different sectors. You know, we have an ETF for each of the sectors, and you can click on those and see what are the consumer staples, the consumer discretionary, industrials, communication, and so on, energy. These are the sectors, and then when you have the sectors, you can really check the time frame and then select the stops, and then do our regular session with dropping into Trading View, look for the support and resistance line, put your indicators up, our power bundle and the trend radar, and then you have a very, very, very fast way to screen the stocks for your favorite things. I go for the sector tracker under Tools, Sector Tracker, and once you do this, you end up with this page here. And what it does here, and I leave it on the 1 day right now, it shows you really where the money is flowing. And that is very, very important, because where the money is flowing, that's where the stocks go up, and that's where you can make money. So what you would do really is, I'm not going to do it on a daily, but if I do it on the longer one, you see a lot of companies were going into cash because money was flowing out of those. In the last 5 days, healthcare, money was flowing into healthcare. This is really the leading one. This is a typical sign in a slowing economy that these, like healthcare, they become very strong. And there you see money, most of the money is flowing into this sector here. And then once you have this sector, you can click this sector And once you click the sector, you get here the components for the healthcare. And there you see what company is in the healthcare and several things that are quite important. You have a weight, because not all the companies are having the same strength. You can see here, for example, let me increase that a little bit. Johnson & Johnson, roughly about 10% of the entire ETF. And then there are other smaller companies that have a lot less weight in here. Like, for example, Davita Inc. only has about 0.1%. So here, I always say, the big boys can't be wrong. So if you go also on the change, on the biggest one, you can select what companies are really the driving forces in this area. And there you can really say, this is a quite easy way to put your favorite stocks together. You also can use the sector heat map, which at that point shows you really what are the sectors that are really right now are in a positive and in a accelerating, and the other one that are in a declining stage. So you can look at this one here, and you can also have sector charting, which is quite interesting, that you can see, for example, let me take the healthcare, for example, and I take the energy, and I can see how do they perform? The energy sector in the last weeks, if you remember, we were looking at quite a few stocks in the energy sector. They were climbing, and then here after mid-June, they were actually going down. But they're still way up compared to the others. For example, the technology sector, technology is really not doing well. So you can compare here and figure out, I don't go through all the 500 stocks. Let me look at the sector that is really leading, and let me use that sector to find my stocks to use. You also have other tools like correlation tracker, which is also quite interesting. We talked about that also. That is really showing you when you select a stock and you have second one, is it correlated to each other? Because if you want to put the eggs in different baskets, you should not have stocks that are correlated to each other. You should try to find stocks that are not too much correlated.
I will go ahead and give you an outlook of what to expect at next week's Trading Tech Talk. As always, it will take place on Thursday, June 30th at 6 p.m. And the spotlight of next week will be the Market Rover dashboard. And we again have a guest speaker with us next week. His name is Serge Berger. Again, with Serge, similar to Scott, we have been working with Serge for a long time now. In fact, we have been developing the Market Rover dashboard together with Serge. And I'm very excited that Serge will be there next week to present his dashboard and his look on the market and how he uses this dashboard to identify entry opportunities. If you're interested in our portfolio tester tool for MetaTrader 4 or MetaTrader 5, simply go to tradingindicators.com/MT4 tester or MT5 tester and check them out. Both pages have a wealth of information where you can see all the ins and outs about these tools. Okay, so if you have questions or feedback, feel free to contact us. Either go to tradingindicators.com, you will find a contact form on our page, or simply email Homer at hj@tradingindicators.com. As you know, we are always happy to receive your feedback. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'll see you all next Thursday at 6 p.m. Goodbye.